Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be ranking my personal top 10 favorite albums of 2020. I don't know why I just have some fascination with like ratings and ranking things. I know it's not necessarily maybe the best thing to do, but it makes me personally happy. Yeah, this year was pretty bad, and it was a lot worse for some people, not as bad for others, but I think we can all agree this was just not a great year. But one really good thing that happened this year was the amount of incredible music that was released this year. And so there was no shortage of incredible albums, songs, everything, creativity all over the place. But this is going to be a really tough thing to rank a lot of the albums that I was exposed to. My taste is, I'll admit, it's pretty limited. It's basically what you would see recommended from any person on gay Twitter. That's pretty much what my taste is limited to. There's a bunch of albums that I haven't listened to from this year. I have maybe listened to, 1% of all the works that have come out from this year. So from what I have been exposed to and what I have listened to, it really helped me and saved me this year. Just tried to help me shut everything out, especially while we were back in quarantine. Just find comfort in anything, help me grow as a person, yada yada yada, all that stuff. There was just so many amazing albums that came out this year. So for those of you who don't know me, I am a professional actor, a professional actor, singer, dancer. I've been working professionally for almost 5 years at this point, and mainly in the realm of musical theater. I've been slowly delving into the world of pop music, and I'm basically just a singer who loves singers. So all this year, I was trying to find a way that I could quantify my feelings towards an album, what I think their strengths, what their weaknesses are. Like I said, I'm really fascinated on like rating systems and everything like that, especially in the realms of like websites like Pitchfork and NME. And I found one online that I think is a good way to rate an album, to quantify some things. But I've modified it to myself, but I bounced it off that. So it was from a website called Iron Skullet, and I will include the link to the website that I found so that you can read further on it. When I rate an album into 6 different categories. There's songwriting, so how clever do I think the songwriting is, how experimental is it, how good are the lyrics, the melodies, everything like that. So specifically just the writing of the song is one category. And then there's also the execution of the album. The execution mainly is based on what I consider the singer's performance. So any like vocal agility, any improvement in the singer's voice, how that voice pertains to the album itself. So basically just the vocals is what the execution is. Then there's the production of the album, and production is a huge component for me. So production doesn't just have to be like the electronic stuff. It could be the instrumentation, it could be the layering, it could be the orchestration, the instrumentation, the production of the album, and how it was put together. And the 4th category is the variety of the album. We don't really want an album where all of the songs sound the same. So I want to focus on how each song is different, but also how it still blends and sounds like it's in one album. Then there's what I like to call like the arc of the album, or like the sequencing. I don't know, maybe it's just because I come from musical theater. I like big stories that have like a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I like the Freitag pyramid that we all learned, where it has the beginning, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, the ending, all that stuff. So I like albums are a bit hard to just tell a linear story. It doesn't have to be a linear story, but a good through line is what I'll say. So if it has a good arc, I guess is the best word for it. Because if it's just a whole bunch of songs thrown into one, but there's no real like story or no build or anything like that, it's just a collection of songs. And then the last one is just my personal enjoyment of it. Music is objective, but for a lot of listeners, it should be subjective. I think it's pretty fair to include just a personal enjoyment score. Again, I'm not like a professional critic or anything like that. So I wouldn't say these are the absolute best albums of the year. Some of them are really quite good. I mean, I think all of them are quite good. These are just my top 10 personal favorite albums of the year. Alright, so let's get started on the list. So for number 10, in our number 10 spot, we have Disco by Kylie Minogue. Over here. There we go. That looks better here. Disco by Kylie Minogue. And I don't know if many of you have seen my reaction to Disco. I put it out like a couple weeks ago, even though the album came out like 2 months ago, because I'm lazy. Disco was just such a perfect like escapist album for what 2020 was. It was Nothing truly like groundbreaking or anything like that, but it was a return to form for Kylie as a disco pop, dance pop artist. It was just so much fun, and there were so many great standout tracks. My personal favorite tracks were like Magic, Miss a Thing, Real Groove, Supernova, Say Something, obviously, and Dance Floor Darling. I really, really like that one. I'm not one for personally going out and dancing at clubs, but this album makes me want to go dance at the club so bad. It's just so, so, so much fun. I give this album an 8.2 out of 10 using the grading system that I've used. Yeah, love, love, love disco. It's so good. Coming in at number 9, we have Dedicated Side B by Carly Rae Jepsen. Oh, I love this album. It hurt to put it so low. I don't remember exactly when this came out. It was somewhere in the middle of quarantine, I think in May. But I think it was a surprise drop too, from what I remember. There wasn't a lot of lead up to it. It was probably one of my best comfort albums for this year. It was really a comfort album for me. I just found it so sleek. I found it really clean and concise, and even though it is sort of a album of outtakes from its predecessor, Dedicated, it really blends together and holds up as its own as an album. Like track 3 and 4, which are Felt This Way and Stay Away, you can obviously tell they were 2 drafts of one idea, and they have pretty much identical lyrics and melodies. What could be seen as 2 drafts of a song they were put on, I read as like follow-up Felt This Way, which is the timid sort of eager, hoping for something more with this guy, which leads into Stay Away, which is the really forward and present like declaration of like, I need this man, like right there in the moment. So it's a nice, like, I think of it as like a Felt This Way into Stay Away. It's like Stay Away is the reprise or the bringing back of the motif. Again, I like to think in like stories. So I like it more than Dedicated. Dedicated, I don't know, it hasn't clicked with me yet. It's a solid record, but I think this one is a bit more successful. In terms of variety for the songs, there's some songs are pretty consecutive, but they're all in the key of F. So it was hard for me to differentiate, especially in the beginning when I was just learning the song. So there isn't too much variety in that part, so I had to knock some points off in that sense, but still, this is a very solid album. My personal favorite tracks for Dedicated Side B were This Love Isn't Crazy, Felt This Way and Stay Away, like I said. This Is What They Say, and Solo. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10 on my grading scale. I love Carly. Love her. I'm really scared to tell my number 8 pick because I'm afraid of the implications. Okay. I'm ready. At number 8, we have Folklore, Taylor Swift. Are they gone? Are the Swifties gone? Okay. I think we're fine. Alright. I just know they would hate me to put it so low. Do not get me wrong. I am obsessed with this record. Again, like I kind of just stated, I am personally a fan of Taylor Swift. I wouldn't call myself a Swiftie just yet, if that makes any sense. Over the past year and a half maybe, around when Lover came out, I think, I started to get into her work, I should say. And for some reason, I don't know, I'm just going to say it, I think she is amazing objectively. Obviously, there's something about her work that has never really clicked with me. Something about the way she writes, I guess, it's just personally never clicked with me. But this album, I think she has finally come into her own as the amazing, brilliant songwriter she is and always was meant to be. It's an astonishing record. Another absolute comfort album for me this year. Her lyricism, I think, is what she's best known for and will be known for. Some of the most devastatingly beautiful, poetic lyrics that I've ever heard, and especially from her, from all her work. I like to think of this album, I kind of think of it as like if Disney produced Norman Fucking Rockwell by Lana Del Rey. I kind of mean that in both the positive and a negative. There's something that's still a little youthful. I think that's always been a thing with her work, even though she is this woman, there's still something very jovial and youthful about her work. And I think with this one, she finally is turning into the woman that she is. A little ways to get there. What I think this album does well is it creates an amazing sense of nostalgia, just a large sense of remembering romances and like your childhood and everything. And I think it's something that we all definitely really felt and or needed during quarantine and everything, especially since this was made in quarantine. This was a quarantine album for her that we all were remembering days gone by before COVID. It's amazing in the sense of nostalgia that it creates. I think I'll put like Evermore honorary in this ranking at number 8 with it because I haven't spent as much time with it as Folklore. Evermore has only been out for a couple weeks now at this point, so I haven't had as much time to digest it. I think they're both really amazingly astonishing records. Evermore is definitely more experimental. Personally, I think Evermore had higher highs but lower lows. I think I consider Folklore to be like the Speak Now 2.0. Very romantic, very nostalgic, and especially in a lot of the orchestration, it's very sweeping and grand like Speak Now was. Evermore I have considered to be the Red 2.0. It's definitely an amazing evolution of Taylor's music. If she sticks in this indie folk pop realm, I think it suits her really well. It suits her a lot better than the pop she has been putting out. My personal favorite tracks from Folklore were Mirrorball. Basically, from Mirrorball to Illicit Affairs, I could live with just that. If it was just an EP of just those 5 songs, I could die happy. The first 5 songs are good, but Mirrorball is when it really kicks in. So Mirrorball to 7 to August, Me Trying, and Illicit Affairs are like, it's just perfection. And then I also love Epiphany, Betty, and Peace. Those are really, really beautiful songs. So I give Folklore a 9 out of 10 on my grading scale. 9 out of 10. I love this. Love Folklore. Folklore. I love Folklore. Now at number 7, we have Punisher by Phoebe Bridgers. And this is what I kind of think Folklore should have been. I think that what Phoebe Bridgers does is like dumbfoundingly incredible. This is some of the best lyricism I have ever heard. She has a style unique to herself that I just have never heard from anyone. And I think she's around my age. I think she's maybe a year older than I am. This is an amazing new sense of telling stories that we haven't heard from another generation. Her lyrics are just so blunt, stark, guttural, very frank. And they're also conversational whilst being poetic at the same time. And again, like I said in previous, I think it was the Positions video, or what I'm going to consider that the Green album. We won't say the name of the album. But in the Green album video, I'm not one who normally pays attention to lyrics, especially on first hand. The music definitely is priority than lyrics, I guess, but the brilliance of these lyrics on Punisher, it's really phenomenal what she's done. Also manages to write really beautiful melodies that sort of maybe juxtapose the devastating implications of the lyrics and the true sadness and depression that we're hearing. Just soothing, almost haunting voice. I immediately drew inspirations from like Lana Del Rey and Billie Eilish when I first heard the album, and I fell in love on first listen, and it's one I definitely go back to a lot. I wouldn't say it's a comfort album. This one is not one that you can be very comforted by. Variety, there's like 3 songs that were written in the key of D flat, which were Punisher, the title song, Halloween, and Moon Song. Those 3 songs all are very kind of very chill songs, so they do sound a lot like the same song at the beginning. In terms of that, I have to knock it down for variety a little, just because like songs sound the same, they're in the same key, and not much variety in them. It's just not very good. I know the end, I think, is also in D flat, but that one, if you've listened to the album, you know why that one's different. The first time I heard that song, I just like mind blown. Oh, it's absolutely amazing. Some of my favorite tracks on this album were DVD Menu, even though I know it's just like the opener, but it set the tone for what it was supposed to do. So I like DVD Menu. I like Garden Song, Punisher, Moon Song, I Know the End, and one second. My brother, for one of my Christmas presents, got me this little plaque of Chinese Satellite, because I told him that I really, really like this album and that he should listen to it. And he said, "Oh, what's one of your favorite songs?" And so I mentioned Chinese Satellite because that was my favorite from listening the first time through. And so he got me this very sweet Christmas present, which is a plaque with the amazing album artwork. I love this cover; it's so cool. So that was very, very sweet of him. Let me hear it. I give Punisher a 9 out of 10 on my grading scale. It's just an unbelievably phenomenal album. Incredible. Alright, coming at number 6, we have an album that I haven't heard discussed at all. I didn't know it was a thing until maybe 2 months ago when I first listened to it, even though the album came out in January, and I'm so confused as to why I haven't heard anything about it. I think it's amazing. So at number 6, we have Dreaming of David by Ryan Beatty. I am in love with this album. In these past 2 years that I've been getting into pop music, there seems to be one album that like just speaks to like my gay romantic narrative that I always love. So for 2018, it was Bloom by Troye Sivan, obviously. In 2019, it was Portraits by Grayson Chance, which I also fell in love with and adored. For 2020, it was this album, Dreaming of David. So unbelievably, the writing is brilliant on this album. I don't know why I haven't seen anyone talk about it, any reviewer talk about it. It seems to like go under the wayside. Again, I think it was released in January. I don't know why it wouldn't have gotten any coverage, but I think everything about it is just utter brilliance. The lyrics are really personal and very unique to his style as well. They're very singular. And his use of voice modulation, sometimes he makes his voice sound higher pitched, or it doesn't sound like it, but more akin to like the chipmunk sound, or to make it lower timbre kind of thing. So like just that range that he uses makes it so that there's like an ensemble telling the story. It's not just his one voice; it's this ensemble. Maybe it's his inner voices or anything like that, but they're all coming together to tell the story. It's a really brilliant convention, and I really, really admire. And his voice, just by itself, is very versatile. It has an amazing range, amazing tone. He's a really, really good singer, but just the writing of this album, brilliant and very experimental, and especially the production too. The production really aids the songwriting. It's very minimalistic pop, even though there's like really heavy, big sounds sometimes. It still seems very stripped, no matter what. It's still pop through and through, electronic pop. I don't know why no one's talking about this album. I think it's so underrated. I couldn't get into Boy in Jeans, which is his first album. I tried to listen to that one a couple times, and I don't know, it never clicked with me. And I still have yet to try to listen to it. So after falling in love with this album, I'm going to try to go back and listen to that one. Criminally underrated. And it makes me sad that like no one's talking about this album. My favorite tracks were definitely In the End, Flowers at the Door, Evergreen is like one of my favorite tracks of the year. Backseat is beautiful, Shimmer, and the title song, Dreaming of David. All these songs together also just create a beautiful arc. I think the arc of this album is just perfect. Arc of this one, I think, is very well done. So I'm going to give this album a 9 out of 10. It's just amazing. I want more people to listen to this album. I want to talk to people about it. Speaking of Troye Sivan, in number 5, we have In a Dream by Troye Sivan, the EP he released this year. If y'all watched my reaction to In a Dream that I released a couple months ago, you'll know how much I gushed about Troye. I just think he's a musical god at this point. I mean, there's no one else like him. He really knows what he's doing. He's definitely like top tier for me. I adore him. And this album was next level. Even though it's only like 7 tracks. The expanded one, I think it was originally released on vinyl, but now it's available for streaming. The one with 7 songs, is brilliance. Absolute, utter brilliance. This one, I think, has the most perfect arc of any of the albums I'm going to talk on this one, because for me, I can absolutely hear a linear story following the events of a breakup, an unfortunate breakup. So you have like the beginning of like you're having the problems between the couple, and Take Yourself Home. You have the admission of infidelity and mistakes made, and then Could Cry Yourself Just Thinking About You is this sort of like drunken stupor, like, oh, he's drinking himself in his sorrows. And then into Stud is sort of like the revenge sex, the immediate revenge sex after the breakup. And then both 10 out of 10 and Rage Your Teenager, I think, present what's kind of like limbo in terms of like sort of this limbo of like trying to impress this guy but also thinking about his ex. And then In a Dream, full like just declaration of I can't get you out of my head, and it's so devastating. The arc of this EP is perfect. I wouldn't change anything about it. It's so good. The lyrics are amazing. The melodies are amazing. He sounds better than he's ever sounded. I obviously do wish it were a longer album, just because it's only, I think, 23 minutes at this point. I wouldn't have it any other way. This is one of the best stories I've ever heard from any pop work. It's just brilliance. So my personal favorite tracks are Take Yourself Home, Easy, Stud, 10 out of 10, and In Dream, the last song. They're just really, really incredible. And again, good production, some leaving more of the dance pop realm that Bloom. Blue Neighborhood was maybe more mainstream pop. Bloom was more dance pop. This is definitely experimental pop. It's good to see how versatile he is. He's really coming to his own with this one. It's just so impressive. I love this. Love this EP so much. And I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10 as well in my grading. Troy, I love you so much. Thank you. These next two albums are definitely the albums that most got me through the quarantine. For me, quarantine lasted like mid-March to June. June is when I had to go back to work. These two albums came out in the middle of that quarantine. I was listening to them non-stop. So at number 4, we have the one and only Good to Know by JoJo. Now, this album is unfortunately proper debut that JoJo deserves and has gotten. If you know anything about her history, her initial producers just really screwed her over in terms of her record deals and all that stuff. So now she's free from them and she's finally starting to make the music that she wants. Even with Mad Love back in 2016, I don't know who that was produced with, if it was the same people. That one still kind of felt like a by the numbers album. It's really good, don't get me wrong. But this one, it feels like she has the most creative control. And boy, does it pay off. So good. It's so good. She obviously has one of the greatest voices of this generation, and that I've ever heard. She's so unbelievably versatile. Her runs are just unbelievable. If you've seen my cover of Think About You, which is from this album, it's a tough song. She just does it with utter ease, and I'm just floored by what an amazing vocalist she is. The lyrics are like vague enough that it can be very relatable to people of all, to anyone who's listening to it, but it's obviously still a very personal story and everything, but I think that's what works, that we can share in her struggles, her pain, her happiness, whatever the song is about. The production's really good, the writing's amazing, and it's a good album to just really groove with an amazing R&B album. And I think this R&B pop genre is where she really thrives, and this album I think is just excellent. And I was listening to it over and over again. It was just incredible. And for me personally, I like the arc of this standard, at least the digital standard album. I loved the way that it started with the track So Bad and ended with Don't Talk Me Down. I think the retail standard edition started with Bad Habits and ended with Proud. The journey that I went on with just the original 9 tracks on the digital standard album, I really loved it. And it was a nice, quick, concise 30-minute album. But I also really do appreciate the deluxe as well. Some of the deluxe tracks are just killer. My favorite tracks from all of the editions, from standard and the deluxe version. I really liked So Bad, Pedialyte, Man was so good. Small Things are like Lonely Hearts, especially the one with Demi Lovato on the deluxe one. Oh, it's so good. Think About You is the song I think that touched me the most. I love Think About You. Comeback, and I think the inclusion of just the solo version of Comeback on the deluxe one, it may have been on the retail standard one, but just the solo version of Comeback shows why men really ruin everything. Because hearing the one that had Tory Lanez, I think his name is, to the one where it's just a solo version of her, men ruin everything. And especially with all the crap he's done. No, we're glad to have him gone. So the solo version of Comeback is just chef's kiss. It's so good. I love Don't Talk Me Down. Kiss is amazing, and What You Need. And there's just so many killer tracks on this album. I'm gonna give this one a 9.3 out of 10. I think it's that good, and I think people need to talk about it more and give JoJo more credit where she deserves. I think she should be as big as Ariana is. I think she's maybe even a more impressive vocalist than Ariana in some ways. They're definitely, I think, in the same vein, but I don't know, there's just something about JoJo. I love JoJo. And I'm excited to see where she goes from this and what more she's going to put out, because she's really finally having to say what she wants to put out, and it's incredible. Amazing. Okay, I'm excited for this. Number 3, we have, this album just gets me so pumped, so excited. At number 3, we have Sawayama by the amazing Rina Sawayama. this album, yo, nuts. In the best sense. This album is so balls to the wall, just powerhouse. It's so chaotic and it's so like just in your face, but it works so well. It is just an unabashed, unleashed masterpiece. It is such an incredible album. What an amazing debut for Rina. I hope that she gets so big from this and that she's like on the same plane as like Gaga, Taylor Swift, Ariana, all this stuff because she's so talented. And what she's done with this album to blend so many genres, you get like pop, you have new metal, you have experimental pop, like hip hop, like there's just so many blendings of genres in this, but I think it works. It's not all over the place. It all is very cohesive and fits into this one narrative of Sawayama. This album gets me so excited and so pumped, like I've been saying. It's very reminiscent of like early Lady Gaga. I kind of consider this to be her Born This Way in terms of its themes of liberation, acceptance of self. In terms of like the writing and everything, the sort of wackiness of it is very Gaga. Probably the Gaga record that we deserved that we should have gotten this year. But I'm so happy that we have this album anyway. It hurts me to even put this one at number 3, just because it should deserve the top spot, but for personal reasons you'll see why I get to the top 2. But this one is, man, this album is good. I want excess of this album, excess. And my favorite tracks from this one were Dynasty, Excess, Shut the Fuck Up, Comme des Garçons, Akasaka Sad. Oh, Bad Friend hits a little too hard. That's unfortunate to say, but Bad Friend, it hits hard. It's a little too close to home. Who's Gonna Save You Now blew me out of the water when I first heard it. Oh, I love Tokyo, love Hotel. That's such a great song. And Lucid, which is the track that was released with the deluxe album, is really, really good too. It's very Carly Rae Jepsen-esque. It doesn't really fit in with the narrative of Sawayama, but it's a solid track by itself. And I like that it's deluxe, not merged into the track list of the original one, but it's its own thing. And it's really, really good. And I'm also going to give this one a 9.3 out of 10. Just an unbelievable masterpiece. That's what it is. It's a masterpiece. Yeah. Finally, at the top 2 albums of 2020 for me, Keaton Delmar Jones. So number 2, this one might surprise you. At number 2, I'm going to put Chromatica. Yeah, it's not number 1. Number 2. And if you have seen my reaction to Chromatica, you will see the joyfulness of a 5-year-old sexual listening to this album. Again, I have been waiting for a new Gaga album ever since I became a little monster back in 2017, I think I said. And this album just delivered. I mean, there's not much more I can say from what I said in my reaction video, but it's just super solid, clean, concise. I wish the album was a little longer, that we got more like 5-minute tracks like we used to get from earlier Gaga. But the fact that it is well edited, I'll say that they got what they needed from it, that it's really in, you're out, and you said what you needed to say in this album, and that it perfectly carries the message of what she was trying to say. She using this medium of dance and disco pop and spreading this message of pain and overcoming depression. I think she succeeds in that part. Sounds better than she ever has, and the production on this album is unreal. Again, Blood Pop I want her to work with again and again and again. He tickles all my production buttons. He gets it. Another return to form for Gaga, and I hope she sticks in this pop dance pop lane for forever, because it's where she belongs. It's her home. It's where we love her. My favorite tracks from Chromatica were basically all of Act 1, Chromatica 1. So that's Alice, Stupid Love, Rain on Me, Free Woman, and Fun Tonight. Again, if I could have just those with Chromatica 1, those 6 tracks as an EP, I would be fine. That's pop perfection, in my opinion. I wouldn't change a single thing about those tracks. 911, iconic, obviously. Enigma, I loved. 1,000 Doves is beautiful. And Babylon is so good. I think this is from when there was the whole Spotify Wrapped and everything. Sorry, I use Apple Music. Just to say it. But with the Apple Music replay thing that happened, all of my top 10 tracks were just songs from Chromatica. I listened to this album a lot. And I'm gonna give Chromatica a 9.3 out of 10. She did it. Gaga did it. She saved 2020 by helping us escape this awful year and this terrible country. Now, before I get to number one, I want to list some honorable mentions of albums that helped me through this year as well. Ones that didn't make the cut on this one and that came out this year. And then also albums that I discovered from past years that also really helped me too, because there's just so much incredible music that is out there and that I found this year. So there's some albums that came out this year, like I'm so sad this one couldn't make the cut, but Plastic Hearts by Miley Cyrus is what we have needed here from Miley for a long time. This rock pop genre is where she shines. And Plastic Hearts is so good. I'll put it like right along there with disco. I don't think I could get rid of disco. And I just had fallen in love with this list for this one. I couldn't put Plastic Hearts in it. Plastic Hearts was unbelievably amazing. Jessie Volume 3 by Jacob Collier. On first listen, I was not into it. I don't know, I was expecting something more just strict pop oriented. I didn't expect the R&B aspects of it. But after it got its surprising Album of the Year nomination, I was like, okay, maybe we'll give it another shot. And I've been listening to it again and again, and Jacob Collier is obviously a musical force to be reckoned with. He's just brilliant. His use of harmony and song structure and layering and everything is unlike anything else, and I think he's the future of music brilliance. So it's all kind of my personal pick for what I hope to win at the Grammys. It's either that or Folklore. But this one just didn't hit as much of a personal connection with me, just because I recently got back into it, listening to it more, but it's an amazing record. Mama's Boy by Lanny was also a really amazing record. Their earlier record from 2018, Malibu Nights, I discovered this year during quarantine, and that I was listening to on repeat. I think Lanny's like straight white boy in my feelings music excellence. They fit in that lane. They're so good. So Malibu Nights specifically got me this year. And Mama's Boy is good. It's just kind of longer and not as it just didn't have as much success as Malibu Nights did, I think. Smile by Katy Perry was good. Not incredible, but some tracks are really great. How I'm Feeling by Lau, however you want to say it, was fine. I think Mama's Boy fit that lane for me a little better, so I don't know how much I'll go back to Love, How I'm Feeling. Time of the Hour by Chloe and Halle is so good too. It didn't have as much an impact on me as the other ones did, but they are an incredible duo, and I can't wait to see where they go. And they're both so young, so I just am excited to see where their careers go. Now, I do have to say that both, like, obviously, Fetch the Bolt Cutters by Fiona Apple and Set My Heart on Fire Immediately by Perfect Genius, they're two just out of this world brilliant albums that, like, it felt weird to put them on this list for me, just because I haven't been listening to them as the other ones have, and they just kind of fit in their own, like, top shelf. They're both just, like, up there, and they don't deserve to be on my lovely list. So they're up there in the brilliance. Don't get me wrong. And then I just want to put this one in here. I know it came out in 2019, but I discovered it this year, and it is probably one of the most life-changing records I've ever heard. Was Save the World by the band Luna. Man, I listened to this record right before quarantine happened. I think in February is when I first listened to it. I was listening to it non-stop. They really check all my boxes for what I like to listen to in music. The melodies are amazing. The production is insane. I love the production on the Luna records. So this one, I was listening to over and over again. And I'm including it in this one because it technically could have been in his Grammy submission year, but it wasn't nominated, unfortunately, which is such a crime against humanity. But man, Saves the World really got me through. It really helped me, like, through a lot of stuff. And the albums from other years that I discovered were basically, I discovered all of Lana Del Rey's albums. I know, shocking that, like, I wasn't on the Lana train before. But, like, every album that I listened to of hers this year really just, she is probably my greatest discovery of an artist's discography that I can now obsess and stand over. This year was definitely Lana for me, and man, Norman fucking Rockwell is just, I think, one of the greatest records of all time. That's an amazing album. And then I think right under that for me is Lust for Life. Wow, I love Lust for Life. I listened to that one. I remember specifically listening to Lust for Life as I was standing in line to vote at the primaries back in late February. And so, yeah, Lana definitely helped me get through this year. And I also discovered Emotion by Carly Rae Jepsen. I had tried to get to that one a lot of times, and I don't know why it didn't click for me. The side B of that one I really loved. The album proper itself, I couldn't get into it. And then once dedicated side B came out, and I listened and obsessed over that one, then I tried to listen to more of her stuff. And Emotion, that I love Emotion. And it was sort of not a breakup album that helped me get through a breakup, but I was friend zoned again, like I always am. I know I sound like such a pathetic, but Emotion helped me get through that unfortunate friend zoning, which I know it's not a thing, but it was. I'll say it my comfort breakup album for that experience. Also, About You by Muna. I listened to Saves the World and then listened to About You, and About You is chef's kiss, amazing. Malibu Nights, like I said. There's this artist named Rule who is sort of like a little underground. I think he's Australian. He has these 2 EPs. They're called Ready and Free Time, and I listened to those in quarantine, and his voice is so good. It's like he's the raspier, more Australian version of Shawn Mendes. The music he puts out is really good, and I'm ready for him to put out a full-length album. I think he's really good. And then I know it's not pop music, but I listened to a recording of the Stephen Sondheim musical Passion. I listened to the London cast recording that came out in '97, I think. It has one of my favorite Broadway singers of all time. Her name is Maria Friedman, and her Fosca just really blew me away. So I was listening to Passion a lot this quarantine. I think my musical obsession of the year is Passion. But I also not discovered it, but finally fell in love with Golden Hour by Casey Musgraves. I was a little bitter back in the beginning because I was definitely on the Dirty Computer wagon back in 2018 for Album of the Year, and so I couldn't get into Golden Hour for a while, but I listened to it more and more, and wow, it's a beautiful record. I really love Golden Hour now. Here we are at number 1, and I cannot wait to finally just gush about this record. I love my number 1 pick. This one I just think is absolute brilliance. So, number 1 is not Chromatica, which if you've seen a lot of my YouTube stuff, and a lot of my TikTok stuff, you'll know how much I love Chromatica. But no, number 1. What's Your Pleasure? What's Your Pleasure by Jessie Ware. I mean, this album is... I'm speaking. I can't find how much I love the words for how much I love this album. One of the best concepts for an album, and one of the best concept albums I've ever heard. Very disco inspired, and all the songs are about desire and love and sex and pleasure. The execution of this album on all levels, her voice, the production, everything is brilliant. It's so good. After listening to this one, I listened to more of her older stuff, and this Jessie Ware can sing, mama. She has an incredible voice, and the fact that she chooses to keep it like sort of cool and kind of restrain her voice on this one as a choice to sound more husky and cool and smooth in her voice, such a brilliant choice, and I give mad respect and mad kudos to her for using that as a. She's like, you know what, I'm not gonna write about trying to sing harder than these songs. I'm gonna keep it easy for myself. I'm just gonna lie it low, and it works so well because this album it's so sexy. This is such a sexy album. Sexy album, Ariana. Sorry about it. The production of this album sort of adds an underlying layer of subtext, sort of like subtext that's put in the forefront that you can hear it. I like to say this album is brilliantly understated and understatedly brilliant. So this is absolutely my album of the year, and I think it's a crime that it was not nominated for anything at the Grammys. The Scammys, which I'm starting to believe, yeah, they're probably more of a scam, but yeah, this is album of the year. And the opening song, Spotlight, is I think the song of the year, and What's Your Pleasure, the title song, is the record of the year. And when you listen to it, you'll understand what I mean. there's a moment in Spotlight, which is the opening track, where there's a whole prelude, opening of the song, which is a little slower, and she's singing, and it's a more orchestral. And then as it gets into the beat of the song, there's this amazing drop that just kind of says, okay, this is how this album's going down. This is how it's done. And it just, I wish I could play it, but I don't want to get copyrighted. It's such an amazing, like, in your face, what? This is how it's going to go. Drop. And so listen to it, and you'll understand what I mean. It's like one of my favorite moments in music ever. It's so good. I just absolutely love this album. Love it. One of my favorite tracks are Spotlight, like I said, What's Your Pleasure, Ooh La La, So Control, Baby Kiss, Adore You, Step Into My Life, and The Kill. Those are the ones that stood out the most for me. And I give this album a 9.5 out of 10. A high score, but it deserves it. This is one of the best executed albums I've ever heard. It's so successful in what it does. And it gives me pleasure. What's your pleasure is my pleasure. Thank you all so much for watching again. If you would like to comment what your top 10 albums are, or just any albums that personally touched you in 2020, helped save your 2020, I'd love to hear what you thought. And I'd love to hear some suggestions of what you think I should listen to. Like, I've heard amazing things about albums, like, I hear amazing things about Run the Jewels. Is it Run the Jewels? See, White. Run the Jewels 4, I hear, is incredible. What is it? Moses Sumney's album, I hear, is amazing. So, again, like I said, there's still a lot that I need to listen to. So, if you have any suggestions for me, please, I'd love to listen to more music and expand my ears and everything like that. So, thank you all again for watching. I hope you have an amazing, happy new year. And let's hope that 2021 is a much better year, but that the quality of music is just as good as 2020.